Good morning. How's everybody doing? We have a good crowd gathered. Um, I am Jen Troke. It's so good to see so many of you. Welcome to today's webinar, Choosing the Right Training for the Job. Pun intended there, very bad pun. So today we're going to walk through all of the different training options that are available to you when you're making training decisions locally. And we originally, when we were planning this webinar, it was going to be all about skills grants, since y'all are our newest applicants. And then we said, no, let's actually take a step back. Let's do a holistic review at all of the different training options. And so that's what we're going to do today. We hope it's going to be helpful for you. Some of it is going to be very basic. It's going to be a review for you, and we get that. And hopefully some of it will be new to you. But we thought the idea of presenting all of the training options, that full portfolio would be interesting. The other thing we want to do today is we want to ask you some questions about how you think about training locally. So we're going to ask you to get involved as well. We have a great lineup of speakers today from the Workforce Development Division, but also from the Office of Employer Initiatives. So we have Courtney Arbor and Mary York here to welcome you and talk about some of their thoughts about training. We have a team of speakers who've worked on this session today. Myself, Christina Ramos, who is our manager for our skills grants. Many of you have worked with her over the years. Eben Riggs from our policy team, who brings to us a wealth of local experience and expertise. And Christina DeWitty, who's bringing her outreach experience to this conversation as well. So a couple of things, let me go ahead and address right away. The slide deck, and we're going to be talking about a desk aid throughout. Both of those materials will be emailed to you all following today's webinar. All right, so let's dive in. Our agenda today is pretty straightforward. We're going to talk quickly about the benefits of training. We're going to give you a snapshot of the training programs. We're going to talk about different types of training, and then we're going to kind of give you a little bit of a view into the mindset of how we think about training here at TWC. And I'm guessing it's going to mirror very much how you all think about training as well. And again, we're going to ask you to be very participatory today, and we're going to have some polling questions throughout the webinar. So get ready to use your chat. But kicking us off today, our first speaker is Mary York. So Mary, please take it away.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As Jen noted, we have a few major objectives for today's session, and those have kind of evolved over time as we thought about what might be most helpful to everyone. And of course, you know, we want to talk about the benefits of training, but we know that in the positions that you hold, that you know the benefit of training probably better than anyone else. So we're going to be preaching to the choir a little bit there. And I did want to take this opportunity to thank everyone. I've had the pleasure of visiting with each board over the last few weeks, and that has been a great experience. Everyone has great information to share, amazing initiatives on the board level, and has really been welcoming to me joining TWC in the Office of Employer Initiatives, and has provided me some great information for my team to use moving forward. One of the things that we talked about whenever we were meeting, some of us did anyway, was this webinar coming up and the availability of a new desk aid that might help break down some of these training options for you and kind of be used as a tool for you. So I'm hoping that we're going to really deliver on that big time, and this handy snapshot of training resources is going to be a valuable tool moving forward. And so we're going to look at also, you know, when to use those resources and programs, and then also understand how y'all make the training decisions that you make, or make recommendations to your partners within your service areas on which training might make the most sense. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass things off to Courtney, and I look forward to talking to you again in a moment.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Mary and Jen. And like Mary and Jen have said, we're glad that all of you could join us today. training is not a new topic for the workforce system, and we realize that, but we wanted to just take a minute, like they said, to go over some of the key programs that we have available and what some of the opportunities are in case you all needed a refresher, and when certain funding streams are a best fit. We all know that not only does providing or receiving training help someone to get into the workforce in the first place, ongoing training is what keeps people happy. They're being developed professionally. They are learning new skills. You know, through your future of work discussions, that lifelong learning is now no longer a nice to have, it's the thing to have. And so we are having to teach kids and adults alike to think about the need to not just stop at whatever certificate or degree or diploma they've received, but think about how to keep incorporating new training into their lifestyle. So we wanted to share with you this quote from Chair Daniel, which you may have seen. It was in one of the press releases. And really his words here are a common thread through all of the training that our workforce system supports. We're always looking at a worker pipeline for the demand and target occupations, helping people earn as much as they possibly can to bring as much into their homes and family to support them as we can. Upgrading worker talent so employers, as the employer needs change and technology brings changes into their industry, that their workforce is keeping up the pace so that they're able to keep those workers steady and stable and growing, and so their bottom line is not impacted. So Chairman's words here really ring true for all of us, and really in every training program that we are part of at the agency, as you well know. I wanted to just kind of also put a plug in here that you hear a lot about career pathways, and we as an agency are really embracing how to make those more available, how to make sure that customers know that a CNA may be the great first job, but there are a number of different certificates along the way to help get them to a Bachelor of Nursing or whatever level of education they would like. Same in manufacturing and other industries. So we appreciate all that you do on the trainee side for the customers who are looking for work, and then your support of incumbent worker training through these different programs. So thank you again for being here today. And we're pleased to share this with you and take any questions you have.
Okay, so one of the first things we wanted to tackle was some of the training considerations. And we know that there are a lot of factors that you all consider when you're helping customers make training decisions, including the most basic decision of who gets training and who doesn't. And you also consider the types of training that the employer needs, but also the individual. And, you know, again, something we've talked about a lot in our conversations within OEI is the fact that our employer is our customer. But certainly there are decisions to be made about which employees are also getting that training, or in some cases, those individuals who might not be employed. So you take a variety of factors into consideration, including the price point. But one of the most helpful things we're hoping that you're going to get out of this training is some of the factors that we consider when we're reviewing training projects, and we're hoping that that will provide you with some insight there whenever you're making these decisions on the local level and making these recommendations. So Jen, is it back to you now?
It is back to me. So this is where I want everybody to grab their keyboard. We have a two-part polling question. So this is our warm-up activity. In thinking about those training and needs for your customers, so thinking about individual training, we want you to rank the three, among these three choices: cost, duration or length of training, and skills gain. We want you to rank those three. What is the most important consideration when you're doing customer training? Cost, duration, and skills. If you could rank those and throw those in the chat for me. I have a theory about what you're going to say, but I want to see if it holds true. Skills gain, skills, duration, skills. Oh, cost. Oh, Mary Lou, I see you're doing them in sequence. Skills. My theory is skills, so most of these are fitting my theory. Skills, duration, cost. Okay. Okay, they're still coming in. For those of you who finished the first one, now put yourself in the employer's shoes and think about what an employer training needs look like and rank these three things: cost, duration, skills. And I have another theory. Let's see what you think is most important to an employer when they are training their workforce. Cost, duration. Okay, I love this crowd. Cost, duration. Yeah, cost and duration. It's a close call for me too. I don't know, honestly. Christina can speak to this, and she will in a little bit, about duration and some of the struggles that we have in helping employers let their people off work. Let me say that in a very nice way. But okay, well, thank y'all. This is exactly right on. This is what we wanted to get your brains going this morning, as well as ours. And I think we're in sync. So I'm going to keep rolling here. And I'm actually going to pass it back to Courtney for a quick overview of some funding nuggets here.
Hey, thanks, Jen. Yes, we wanted to just, again, you all that work in a local office, you're very aware of most of these. And we wanted to just show what the dollar amounts are annually for some of our key programs. We owe a TANF adult ed, we owe youth, skills, apprenticeship, VR, and self-sufficiency are all listed there. You can see it. I also wanted to recognize here that we know that not most of the dollars in WIOA and TANF are not going straight, and adult ed, frankly, are not used directly for ITAs. Adult ed is primarily for staffing and expenses related to the classroom, so it's a little different. But WIOA and TANF have very large budgets. But as you know, there's a lot of operating costs and a lot of other great services that are provided in the Workforce Solutions offices that aren't training directly. However, there is funding for training in both of those, in all of these. And so in our system, we have fairly large chunks of funding available for different purposes, different target groups. And when taken together, we are really able to look at the person and determine which funding source is the best fit for getting them the training they need, which funding source is the best fit for the employer to do what the employer is trying to accomplish. And so there, sometime in a system as integrated as ours, it can be a blessing and a curse, right? Because there's all these different opportunities. The key is staying familiar with all of them, as you know, so that you know when you're putting that puzzle together, either for a job seeker or an employer, which one of these is the best fit. So just wanted to show you this, that there is quite a lot of money that operates through this system. And there are many options. I believe Tamara Atkinson is who talks about a recipe, like you've got some eggs, you've got some milk. And I think of that when I look at this, you've got all these pieces to a recipe to help customers figure out their path. And so we're glad that we're able to put these parts together the way we very often do. Jen, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Courtney. So now we're going to really get into the training snapshots. And so we've divided the programs into three big buckets. So we have a general revenue and TANF bucket, and you'll understand those are our skills programs, but the skills for self-sufficiency uses TANF dollars. So that's one big bucket of training opportunities. Then we have our workforce innovation and opportunity, our WIOA bucket. That includes OJT, customize, apprenticeship, tip, high demand, all those good things, many of which you all are very familiar with. And then last but not least, other education and training programs. So VR and AEL are sister programs. And so we want to make sure we talk about their training resources as well. But I want to keep teasing you a little bit. This is a screenshot of the sample desk aid that we're going to be sending out to you all after this webinar. And this desk aid, we hope, is going to be a tool that you can easily keep at your desk. It's a very large chart, so this is just the front corner of the chart, but it includes things like the annual funding, who the eligible participants are, who is the training targeted at? So is it entry level? Is it middle skills? Is it advanced training? It has a link to any of our resources online. It has information about how to apply for those resources if that's applicable. It talks about whether or not the eligible training provider list is required. And then we have a kind of a notes section with any other details that we thought were important to share with you, including references to WD letters, which we think will be super helpful. So this is going to be a living document. And so as new training programs come on or off, we'll be making changes to it. But for right now, I just think it's going to be a really handy dandy tool. And I want to give props to Robert Andrade because this was his desk aid that he used, and we've kind of judged it up just a bit. And that's what we'll be sharing with you also. Thank you, Robert, if you're here today. All right, so let's get going. We're going to get started with our skills programs. And so I'm going to flip this right over to Christina Ramos.
Thank you, Jen. Good morning, everyone. I've had the opportunity to speak to a few of you, especially those that are new to our Skills Development Fund and have been participating in our COVID-19 special initiative. But what we're doing here is going over a very high-level overview of our general revenue funding sources for training. As Jen noted, Skills Development Fund is funded 100% by state general revenue funds. Annually, we have approximately $26 million available. And as you are aware, boards became eligible to apply for skills dollars during the last legislative session, along with community colleges. The primary purpose and focus of these funds is to provide customized training to employees of businesses that are participating in these projects. Eligible participants consist of employees of these business partners and must be full-time permanent employees of the businesses, meeting at the minimum the local prevailing wage, which is determined by LMCI per board area. This eligibility requirement is a bit different from what some of you are used to under the COVID-19 special initiative. Under the initiative, some allowances were made so that individuals who were unemployed could receive training that would hopefully result in immediate job placement. However, under regular skills grants, which we will hopefully transition to soon as the pandemic becomes more under control, participants will be required to be employees of participating business partners. Under skills development, there is not a Oh, okay. I have been asked to start my video. So, as a, let's see here. So for this training, participants are not required to obtain credentials, even though we are seeing a movement towards training that is leading to more certifications. As some of you have become aware, there are reporting requirements. Equipment purchases are eligible, and those requirements are structured under our administrative code that governs the Skills Development Fund, and the application to apply is online. Boards are not required to utilize eligible training providers. They can partner with local community colleges. They can partner with training vendors. We just, as you all have discovered, we do take a look at projects that have come in and costs just to make sure that they align with costs that have normally been paid for similar type training. Next slide, please. Another initiative that is funded by Skills Development Fund is our Skills for Small Business program. Up to $2 million is set aside annually for grants that provide training to small businesses that apply for it. In this program, the business applies directly to Texas Workforce Commission. TWC then checks to make sure that first, that the business is eligible, and secondly, that there is a grant in place and that partners and then we partner that business with the grantee. The program is designed to meet immediate training needs of small businesses, therefore concentrating on courses that are readily available with no customization, such as workforce development courses from a college catalog and some vendor-ready courses that some of you have become familiar with, such as safety training. Again, the eligible participants are regular full-time employees. The trainee skills level is entry level to executive management. There are no training credentials required. Reporting requirements, actually, when there is training, there is a reporting requirement, a trainee information form, or as my team calls it lovingly, the TIF, maybe not lovingly. And that captures all of our training data by participant. Equipment purchases are not eligible for purchase under the small business program, and it is an online application process for these training dollars. Next slide, please. The last GR program that we are presenting to you is the Self-Sufficiency Fund. Self-sufficiency is a carve out of TANF, and we receive approximately $2.4 million annually for these projects. Eligible applicants include community colleges and nonprofits, such as community-based organizations. The purpose of the fund is for participants to receive occupational skills training that will hopefully lead to an industry certification, allowing them to be placed in a permanent job that allows them to earn a self-sustaining wage and make them independent from public assistance. And while the boards are not eligible for this funding source, we present it here as another training resource by which eligible participants can be referred to for training. Many of you already work closely with the self-sufficiency applicants, referring eligible clients regularly, and we're very appreciative of that. There is some pending legislation that may remove some client barriers, expanding eligibility to just regular low-income individuals without the addition of the TANF requirements that currently are required for participants. The application is available online through our training website. And again, the items of note, eligibility may change. We're waiting on to see what happens with that legislation currently in session. Please, if you have any questions, enter them into the chat and we'll address those questions during our Q&A session at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. That was perfect. And yeah, I think that the skills information is probably going to be the most helpful to the boards on the line with us today. And so if there are specific questions about any of these programs, throw those in the chat and we will circle back to them. For now, Evan and I are going to tag team on the WIOA training programs. Evan, I am going to flip to you. Take it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen. So I just wanted to kind of start off by saying this is more a method than training types. Some of these, really the ITA system doesn't neatly fit into a slot. So I just wanted to start with that caveat. But individual training accounts are under WIOA sort of the primary source for training WIOA participants. So they're pretty straightforward. These are a voucher or an individual check that is provided to the individual either directly or through the school to pay for training. Priority must be given in these training types or ITA funds to training that leads to a recognized credential related to target occupations, but neither of those things, neither the recognized credential is required for the ITA or for trainings related to that. Traditionally with ITAs, what we're talking about is occupational vocational training, but we would also include private sector training and entrepreneurial training, as well as the apprenticeship options that Jen will be speaking to. So again, this is really provided primarily for adults and dislocated workers, although youth can take advantage of the ITA system as well, though your services are normally going to be contracted for youth. That is an option. And then also some local areas may choose to allow ITAs for choices and SNAP ENT participants. That's also an option there. There's a couple of exceptions that we're not going to talk about right now, although they are great exceptions to the ITA system. All of the exceptions require a contract, and those would be working with community-based organizations that have a history of working with individuals with barriers, so directly training through those organizations. Cohort trainings are another great option, as well as pay-for-performance training or pay-for-performance contracts. That's a great way for you to get sort of more bang for your buck, since you essentially are contracting with a training provider that agrees to a specific outcome, successful completion of the training, credential, certificate, what have you, in order to get paid. And then the other exceptions to the ITA system for WIOA adults and dislocated workers are what we're going to cover in the next slides. So Jen, if you can go to the next one. So on-the-job training, everybody's familiar with OJT, I assume. Essentially, it's a pretty straightforward process. You're talking about training at the workplace, including virtual workplaces. Just wanted to point that out, while the participant is performing the actual job. So these may be supported by classroom training, although a lot of times it's a one-on-one training process with someone who has skills and experience in the position, where that OJT participant is actually working with them directly. The employer really agrees to hire the individual because from day one of the training, that individual becomes the employer's employee, but the agreement really is that they will continue on afterward. This is not a train them and then move them on to another job sort of position. Also, the employer is reimbursed by the board, generally 50% of the wage rate, but it could be up to 75%, considering factors like significant barriers to employment that the individual might have. For eligibility, we're really looking at participants that are not earning a self-sufficient wage or a wage at or higher than previous wages. And it's critical that OJTs are related to new technology development, new production, new service procedures, or upgrades to a new job that would require more skills than the individual currently has. So those are factors that the board should be considering when creating those OJT contracts. Next slide, Jen. So customized training is a great and not very talked about from a policy perspective option for boards. So these are trainings that are provided through the employer that are designed to meet the specific needs of an employer or group of employers for one or more individuals. The employer commits to hire the individual after successful completion of the program, and they pay a significant portion determined by the board, but not less than 50% of the cost of the training. And eligible employees here, again, just like the OJTs, really we're looking at employees who are not earning a self-sufficient wage or not earning a wage compared to or higher than previous wages for that individual. And just like OJTs, we're looking at training that is providing new technology or related to production of new technology, service, other skills that are required in the workplace, not just general employee training that the employer would normally take on by themselves. And I did fail to mention that OJTs and customized training, again, are not linked to the eligible training provider list, although they can be added to the list. That list is really designed for that ITA format training. And so next slide, Jim. And incumbent worker training. This is the one that I really love. I think we had a slide earlier that showed that the 2021 funds were $119 million statewide for WIOA adults and dislocated workers. And I just want to point out that one of the critical and really important things about incumbent worker training is that boards can set aside up to 20% of their formula funds combined between adult and dislocated worker for incumbent worker trainings. So that would be statewide 2021, almost $24 million could have been set aside for incumbent worker training. So these incumbent worker trainings, as the name says, really require that these are current employees who are being trained. 50% or more of the employees being trained in an incumbent worker training program must have a connection to that employer of 6 months or longer employment. And I will say that an incumbent worker training program can be as small as a single employee. The employer pays a sort of a share of the non-federal cost of training, somewhere, depending on the employer size, between 10 and 50% of that cost. And that cost can include the employee's wages. Trainees do not need to be WIOA participants for this group. So you can do eligibility and determine whether they're a participant or not and enroll them in WIOA services, which would allow you to provide supports and other necessary case management to that individual or individuals, but it is not a requirement. Customized training and incumbent worker training are what we consider, are what we consider employer-focused trainings. So these do not require participation or all that entails. Okay, Jen, I think I am.
That was awesome. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
We have loved having you on our team here. And so time for a quick polling break. And I also, before I go into this, I want to thank Amber. She asked a really important question about how do you all know when there are grant awards in your local workforce area? And I just want to say this out loud because we're excited about it. We're working on a new report that's going to show all of the grant awards in your local workforce area. So you'll be able to see your skills grants, you'll be able to see your whatever else grants, all of our special initiative grants. And so we're working really hard on that, and I'm hoping to get that to you in the next few weeks. So that was a super question. Thank you, Amber. Okay, polling question. Which training do you use most frequently for employers, customized or incumbent worker? And I did not put none of the above as an option, but customized, incumbent worker trainer. Is there a favorite training that you use? Oh, Mike Crane. Hello, Mike Crane. Customized training. Perfect. Eligible training for, okay, we got Wendy. What about others? Customized training. Oh, somebody wants to use incumbent worker training more. Yay. Evan, that will make you happy. Customized training. Others, what are you using? Customized, incumbent, or none of the above? Customized, okay. Customized. All right, that seems to be the winner. So Evan, we might want to, we have a question coming up later about incumbent worker training. So we'll see if that might be one for a deeper dive. All right, polling question number 3. Y'all are doing great. Can you share with us any of the barriers to providing training using OJT, customized training, or incumbent worker training? One of our hopes is that if we can understand what you're using and why you're using it, if there are any policy barriers at the state level that we could help remove, we'd like to help with that. So this one is a little kind of deeper question, but if you have thoughts on barriers to using any of these types of trainings that Evan outlined, please throw that in the chat as well.
Hi, Jen.
Yes, hi.
This is Christina DeWitty. We had a question in the Q&A box while everybody's answering the polling question. I thought you might want to know. The question is, will we receive a recording of the meeting and slide deck?
Yes, everybody will get that recording and the slide deck and the desk aid. So everybody will get all of the above. And I think we answered the question. There was a good question about incumbent worker. Did the training trainer have to be on the eligible training provider list? Evan, did you catch that one? Did you answer that?
Yes, I did. The incumbent worker training, customized training, OJTs, these are all exceptions to the ITA payment method, and only ITAs.
Okay, super. And Aaron Ray, hello. I'm so glad you're here because you're a superstar trainer. I am so glad that you acknowledge this idea that employers are reluctant to provide access to their records. And so Christina can also speak to that in a bit when we talk about training considerations, because I know that can be a barrier with some of our skills projects as well. So thank you for throwing that out there. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to keep us moving here because the next few training snapshots are mine and they're very high level. Just to give a nod to them since they are our partner programs. So I took the liberty of merging pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship on this slide, but I promise you in the desk aid, they are separate. As y'all know, pre-apprenticeship is the preparation of individuals to go into a registered apprenticeship program. And one of the elements is meaningful hands-on training for that participant. So that is a training program. I want to put in a plug for a pre-apprenticeship RFA that's going to be released very, very soon. We are lucky enough to be able to pilot a pre-apprenticeship program using those IKEA funds that we received recently. So be on the lookout for that. I also want to put in a plug. When I talked to Desi yesterday, she wanted me to be sure and remind you all that, registered apprenticeship is a career pathway and it's also an educational pathway. And so you're going to walk away with not only a job, but you're going to have a degree potentially. And it's sometimes a much faster way to get a degree. She also wanted me to share with you all that, apprenticeship, it's kind of like they still do the same old welding, manufacturing, all those traditional apprenticeship occupations. But they also are doing beer making now. They're doing cybersecurity. They're doing healthcare. So when you think about pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship, I think the world has expanded as significantly. So most of our apprenticeship dollars do come through RFAs, as y'all are aware. So again, putting a plug out there to be on the lookout for several new apprenticeship RFAs that are coming out soon. All right, TIP grants, another one that you all are very familiar with. It's an opportunity to do that extra employer work that you would like to do locally. And there have been a lot of creative projects that have been coming in. We've seen industry studies and analysis, which I think is such a great use of these dollars. I think my favorite TIP project is one from West Central. I don't know if Mary's here this morning, but they did a vet tech program where they were training vet assistants and laboratory animal caretakers at a horse facility. So I thought that was really cool. And those dollars purchased some equipment to support that training, which allowed those students to work in rural areas, but also if they wanted to work across the state, they would have that credential. So TIP program, I'm not gonna say a whole lot because y'all are very familiar, but I will tell you the online application, which is a hybrid application. We've merged high demand and TIP into one document. So thank you to the boards who did pilot that for us. We appreciate you. And you should see it very soon online. High demand, what do I want to say about high demand? Just this is another opportunity for you all to partner with your local economic development corporation. It's really designed flexibly so you can put together the training program that makes the most sense for you. We get all kinds of projects in healthcare, manufacturing, IT. We do see a lot of equipment purchases with these dollars, which is great. And again, the online application is coming very soon. For both TIP and high demand, we do have a leverage requirement, as you're aware, and we do track those dollars. So just something to keep in mind that we want to see matched resources for both of those opportunities. Okay, that was a whirlwind. But last but not least, we have two other major training programs that I talked about earlier, AEL and VR. And I want to make sure we just quickly give a fast pass to these guys as well. So VR, the big message here is that they do have training funds available for eligible customers. And so when I was talking to our friend Jason Vaden, he said, make sure the boards are referring folks to us. Not only do we have training dollars, but we also have, much like our supportive services, they have training supports that they can provide to make sure people are in training successfully, staying in training, and staying employed. So refer was his message and reminder to us. Most of our VR customers are on an IEP, an individual employment plan. And so they'll have some prescribed training. But I think as more offices are co-located, I'm guessing this is happening already. But for those who are in the process, this is something to think about. So putting a plug in for our VR friends. And last but not least, AEL, it's a program for helping to get those basic skills, but also high school equivalencies, getting folks into college and to training. And when I talked to Mahalia about this, she wanted to plug the fact that they also can pay for supportive type services and training related costs. So uniforms, vaccinations, books, tools, supplies. So they have a very expansive training support mechanism in place. Many of you, some of the boards are the local AEL provider, and some of you are work in very close collaboration with them. If you do not, we've included in our desk aid a link to our provider directory so you can make that connection. AEL providers typically do focus on entry level to middle skills occupations and training, but they are just a very valuable resource, and they are very excited to be there for the boards. All right, snapshots complete. Let's get to our fourth polling question. So thinking about all of the different types of training programs, which of these would you like more information on? And I think incumbent worker may be one of them, but don't let me have a leading question here. So when you think about all the different types of training we've talked about this morning, are there any of these programs that you would like us to do a deeper dive on in the future? Or you feel like you really need more information or more policy guidance or whatever it is? SDF, okay. Thank you, Benjamin. Are there others? Incumbent worker, great.
And Benjamin, can I ask a follow-up question on that? Because I want to make sure that we get you the information that you want on SDF. Would you like us to kind of walk through the application process? Would you like us to talk about how to incorporate different business partners, the role of the outreach team in assisting boards with all of that? So anything you can give us in terms of making sure that that information is targeted to what you would like to see.
Great follow-up. Apprenticeship, okay. And we have several votes for incumbent worker. I hope I didn't do too much leading there. And Benjamin is going to reach back out to us. Okay, perfect. We really want to provide a safe space for the boards to be able to ask questions separate and apart from the colleges related to our skills grants. So let me just say that. So if we want to take some special time just to walk through all the documents, like Mary said, we can absolutely do that. Apprenticeship, high demand. Okay, perfect. Awesome. This is so good. Thank y'all so much. we're gonna use the last part of our presentation today to think about how to choose the right training. And this is that glimpse into TWC's mind when we're thinking about how to make training decisions. So Christina, I'm gonna flip back to you.
Okay, thank you, Jen. All right, the slide that you see before you now is just one snapshot of many of the components that make up a skills development fund project, and that's the types of training. However, this can really be applicable across the board. And what it means is choosing the right mix or balance of training. For example, in skills development, the emphasis is on businesses that are seeking training. So we have to be sure that we're meeting their needs, but also ensure that they are upskilling the workforce. We have two major types of training that we think about. Business technical is a type of technical training specific to an employee's occupation. And the two examples you see in the slide are accounting and welding. These are occupation-specific hard skills. General and non-technical training are the types of training that can be utilized or applied across multiple industries, such as your Microsoft Office training, Excel and Word that we get a lot of requests for, or OSHA training and first aid or CPR training, which can also apply across multiple industries. We also include the type of training for soft skills such as communications, leadership, teamwork, and conflict resolution. A project that comes in heavy with safety training, and we see this sometimes when businesses need to renew their safety training credentials annually, or if it comes in heavy with communications or teamwork training, but very little skills training specific to the occupations of a business will probably not be funded or will be sent back to the applicant for some additional work. In these instances, if you are uncertain whether an application is balanced, we recommend working with our TWC outreach team from the Office of Employer Initiatives. They take care of your upfront needs, and our grant management team takes care of you post-award. Jen, back to you. I believe that you were going to go into some competency-based training that is applicable to apprenticeship.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to put a quick plug in, Christina, to say that these different types of training that you highlighted, in the apprenticeship language, they think about competency-based training. And so, they're meeting very specific criteria in order to be able to say that they successfully completed that training. So that was the note I wanted to share there. So thank you for that reminder. Okay, types of training. If there are questions about this, again, this is just an overview framework. So we wanted to kind of, again, share with you how we think about things, but balance is kind of critical to those training decisions. Christina, let's tag team this next one. It's really different training considerations that we make when we're looking at projects. And so obviously COVID has impacted a lot of the training projects this year. And so we are looking at projects that have either that they're in person or they're virtual or some hybrid of the two. And we're looking at those costs then. Are they matching up to what we think we would see for those virtual training courses versus the in-person courses? And one of the places that we love to go and just kind of check prices is we're always looking at course catalogs and websites and making sure that those prices are in alignment. Christina kind of has a encyclopedia type mind. And so she can pretty quickly and easily tell if a cost for a particular course looks out of whack. But we always confirm, and we use our friend Google to make sure that the costs seem to be in line. One of the tips here is that if a college or a training provider is offering something that might be a little bit high, we frequently will ask them and talk to them about a price point. So I think, this is something your mom probably taught you. Don't be afraid to ask the question.
And to follow up on what Jen is saying, you need to be aware. I wish I could take credit for that encyclopedia knowledge, but my evaluation team, they really have the legacy data. They are the ones that look at every single project that comes in. So after they've seen, 10 projects come in with an Excel course at $250, and then someone comes in with an Excel course at $1,000, yeah, they go back and ask, why is this similar training costing, twice as much, 5 times as much than all the other training that we have seen? We understand that there's customization that occurs, but again, the term reasonable, is it reasonable? Is it just a few dollars over, or is it something that, okay, why are you going with a vendor if you can go with your local community college? And I know a few of you experienced this too recently with some of the COVID projects. There was some safety training that was coming in at $2,000, and we kept pushing back because we know safety training doesn't cost that much, especially if it's a 6-hour online course. So it's not that we're trying to be difficult, but we want you to get the most bang for your buck out there because these are really limited funds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect.
Sorry, Jen.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, that's the detail that we need. So thank you. A couple other consideration is, can existing formula funds be used for this training? And for instance, if you're going to be training for a particular population, like out of school youth, is there a certain program or training resource that you want to tap into first? And then one of the things we've tried to emphasize in the desk aid is, are you serving individuals or cohorts, and do the funds allow for that? So, and by cohort, I just mean a training class. So all of these are things that we're thinking about as we're making training decisions here. And Christina, did you want to add something there?
Yes, there was a question earlier in the chat regarding employers' reluctance to share employee data for participating in a grant. That's something that we encounter with skills quite frequently, mostly because of the reporting system that we have that collects training data. So right now, there's no way around it. However, we are in the process of developing a new training system, which would allow that data to be collected just once upfront, which can be entered by the business partner if they so desire. And then that what we call PII data is then locked, and that data remains confidential. It's still probably almost a year out, but we are really, really hopeful that this is going to solve a lot of problems with employers' reluctance to share that type of employee data. So that's just want to put a plug in there.
Yeah, that's a great clarification. I was so glad that Aaron brought that up. And I don't know, Christina, do you want to talk about just, I think since this is our board group, we can be candid a little bit about some of the issues with employers and letting staff off for time off for training. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. When the evaluation team is looking at projects for funding, one of the questions that frequently comes up is if there is training that comes in for really high hours. For instance, we had a project a year or two ago. They wanted to request training for some of their maintenance staff up to 196 hours. If you think about that, that is probably about almost 50 weeks of training that they're asking for those individuals. So we go back and ask, is it really feasible for your employees to be out of work for this amount of time? And a lot of times they'll say yes, but please remember that in the end, you as the grantee are responsible for meeting performance on those grants. So please have those candid conversations with your employers, especially if they come in with high hour training requests, because a lot of times they'll discover that they can't meet those training hours. And then unfortunately, the grantee is the one left holding the bucket, trying to meet a training hour that is not attainable. And our grant team, we're very creative in trying to amend those projects. What can we fix? What can be reduced and all? But it's really important to have those conversations up front as well.
Perfect.
And Jen and Christina, can I insert something into that as well?
Oh, please, Mary.
I think one of the things we're hoping with these new SDF shell contracts that we're able to really deploy the training more quickly, that the projects don't become so big and elaborate that we get into those situations that Christina was describing, and that the business's circumstances don't change, because sometimes that's the reason that they can't release their employees, is because they got in on the front end and thought, okay, this is going to be great training, but months down the road, when everything is finally in place, their business has picked up in a way that where they can't release folks, or a global pandemic hits, or whatever the case may be. So that's one reason with these shell contracts that we're hoping that we really look at what the business needs at that point in time. A training request is submitted for that, and then the training can be deployed before the business has a change in circumstance. So I just wanted to tack on that.
No, that is absolutely true. It's been a dream of mine for several years now to put something like this in place. And the best part about that is that they immediately see that ROI and the positive impact it has had on their business. And the good thing, a lot of positives are in place there. That business is now in your grant for 1 year. So they can come back to you and say, you know what, I now need to train this cohort here next week and this. So you've got the money already. All you need to do is submit that training request to your grant manager. It's approved. You're ready to train next week. And these projects are amended quarterly the way we're doing our COVID grants. And that lag time doesn't impede them from meeting a need that they need, when they ask us, rather than waiting 6 months down the line for a project to be developed and awarded. So we're really excited at this aspect of our application, our new application process.
Absolutely. Great points, Christina and Mary. And we're getting close to time here. We have one final polling questions for you guys. What other training considerations do you look at when determining whether a training program is reasonable? So thinking about all the different things we've talked about, are there some that we didn't touch on that you thought that we might? Any other things you're thinking about when you're making those training decisions and partnering with employers or for individuals as well? And while you are pondering that, I just want to give a huge shout out to OEI and Mary York and her entire team, Christina DeWitty. Abby here is helping us as well. I hope you can tell that we are close collaborators and we are talking all the time. So OEI and WDD are great friends and colleagues. So we're so happy to be doing this work together. Any other feedback you want to put in the chat? I'm not seeing anything coming in on this last polling question. Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you, Mary. And any other final questions? I really thought we'd have a lot more time, but of course we had a lot of content and you guys have given us a lot of food for thought for a potential second webinar on training resources. So thank you for that. Mary, any final thoughts for us, or are we ready to wrap up?
I think the only thing I want to do is just thank everyone for joining us. As Jen led with, we know that a lot of this information is stuff that you've worked with before, that hopefully there were some new takeaways for you, and we're really excited to roll out this desk aid. I know Jen went ahead and mentioned in there that once you get it, if you have feedback for us, we're happy to take that and incorporate your feedback as well. We want it to be as useful for you as possible. And then certainly we will look into some additional training, as Jen said, for some of these other programs. But again, if you have thoughts on what you might like to see in the training and what would be most helpful to you, as Jen indicated, we want it to be a safe space for you to ask questions, because especially with SDF, you have always been involved, but this is a completely new world, a new role for you. So please reach out to us. And it looks like they have put up, is that like a St. Patrick's Day thing?
It is.
Okay,
it is.
right.
I don't know.
Really over, so good luck. I think is what Jen is telling us. Good luck, go with God. And but no, just kidding. Just reach out to us with any questions you have. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.